This is the webinar, The Members You Value and Value of Members, Acquisition and Renewal. And we're very grateful to Yasheaka Oakley of YO and Associates for making this presentation. Yasheaka presented for us at the conference on a different topic, and I'm sure that she'll do a great job as she did then. Just a little bit about the center itself. Many of you are members, but just remember that our mission is to build the power of New Jersey's nonprofit community. And we do that by supporting you and the work that you do to improve the quality of life for the people of our state. We do that basically in three main ways. We are a membership organization and we provide discounts and special services for our members, but we serve everybody in the nonprofit community in New Jersey. We are a capacity building organization. We do things like this webinar, our conference. We have a help desk that you can email us and get answers to questions and access to resources. If you're looking for nonprofit service providers and expertise, please come to us first. And then finally, one of the most important things we do is our advocacy and public education, where we follow all the legislation that affects nonprofits. We meet with legislators and representatives and community members to educate them about the nonprofit sector, and then we educate the nonprofit sector about the policies and activities that are going on that affect us all. We're also the only umbrella organization for all New Jersey 501c3s, but we too are a member of the National Council of Nonprofits, and there are organizations like our sister organizations across the country. So wherever you are, there is a state association for 501c3s in your area. So please, go to the National Council's website if you need more information for other people. And I'm going to now introduce Yasheaka Owens Oakley. Oh, I'm sorry, Yasheaka Oakley Owens. And I'm going to let you take over now. Thank you so much for doing this presentation for us.
Okay, can everybody see my screen all right?
Yep.
Awesome. Welcome to today's presentation about the memberships that you value and the value of membership. We're really going to dive into customer acquisition, engagement, and retention strategies. This is really a conversation geared towards marketing managers or individuals who work in membership marketing or acquisition. So this is definitely for individuals in business development or sales or member relations. My conversation is really going to be skewed towards 501c3 and 501c6 nonprofit organizations and professional associations, but a lot of these tips are applicable regardless of your business type. So if you have questions throughout the conversation, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll try to get to them at the end of the presentation during Q&A, and the moderator, Danielle, is going to be helping me kind of navigate those talking points at the end. So if you don't get your question answered immediately, please drop it again in the chat so it bumps up to the top. So a little bit about me. My name is Yasheaka Oakley Owens, and over the last decade, I've worked with a variety of 501c3 and 501c6 nonprofit associations with $30 million plus annual in revenue. My areas of expertise include marketing strategy development, lead generation campaigns, email marketing, digital media buying, and analytics. I've worked with small teams where one person is accountable for wearing multiple hats, and I've worked with larger teams where each member is specialized. So I try to include a lot of examples throughout this presentation to make it as informational and beneficial as possible. If you have specific questions, I'm happy to address them either here during the Q&A or afterwards if you send me an email. So in today's session, we're going to explore your business goals for membership growth, retention, and engagement. We're also going to kind of talk about what your inventory can do for you. And when I talk about content, I want you to think of content broadly. anything that your organization puts out the door is content, which means, webinars, podcasts, blog articles, the events that you produce. Those are all value opportunities for your target audience to engage with you, either, in any point of the customer life cycle. And then I'm also going to share some marketing strategies that'll help you communicate the value of your membership and power your campaigns going forward. We're going to start the conversation by just level setting expectations and making sure that we understand what our business goals are for membership. And, depending on where you are in the organization, you might be exposed to more or less of this type of conversation if you're on the operational tactical side versus the strategy side. So some of this stuff might sound very familiar to you, but I just really want to start the conversation here because even if you're a junior employee, your contributions are still going to impact the organization's overall success or failure. So when it comes to understanding what's important from a business perspective, you may hear themes related to customer acquisition as it relates to generating new leads or nurturing prospects through a drip campaign or, welcome and onboarding series or a win back campaign, even when it comes to retention, but also the hard numbers. How many members do we need to bring in this year to meet our revenue targets? Is it 100 members or valued at $1 million or whatever it may be to your organization? But it's always going to come down to the hard numbers when you're having conversations with your stakeholders. And then when it comes to customer engagement, engaging existing members within with various products. Are we offering webinars to keep engagement alive and show value in what we bring to the industry? Or are we convening everyone at our annual meeting where we have high-level subject matter experts as keynotes and sharing industry trends and knowledge, or bringing everyone together for professional networking and career development? How are we providing year-round value to our members? And how are we showing them that it's worth it for them to renew? And so, of course, coming down to the retention component, who are the loyalists? Who are the ones that are enjoying their experience with you so much that they're willing to stay and then possibly in the future become your brand ambassadors and speak highly of your organization to other prospective members through member testimonials? That could be a video, that could be a quote on your website, that could be volunteerism, joining an advisory committee or advisory board where they're helping you shape the content and products that your organization is putting forward. Or even in one of the organizations that I previously worked for, they had a membership committee where they basically gamified customer acquisition, where each member of the membership committee opened up their Rolodex and was trying to invite people to come and participate and engage with the organization. And at their annual meeting, they kind of tallied up the points and had a happy hour reception for the members of the membership committee. And, the person with the most points was Grand Poobah with bragging rights. And sometimes that's all it really needs to be. Now, I want to share this quote with you because it really resonated with me. Your selling point is that unique quality like integrity, teachability, honesty, humility, skill, sagacity, love, self-confidence, vision, compassion, and kindness, which distinguishes you amongst your contemporaries. Now, while this quote is more personal as opposed to corporate, it's a really unique quote that ties into our next talking point about unique selling points. How are you and your organization differentiating yourself from the competition? So the very first thing I want to challenge you guys to do is really identify and understand your unique selling point. And this might require you to do a little bit of market research. This might require you to do maybe some focus groups with some of your highly engaged members or board members or the advisory board that we talked about before, but really trying to understand what are the reasons why our members or customers engage with our nonprofit. Are they enjoying our programs? Are there specific service offerings that we have that our competitors don't make available? Is it our mission? Is there something about us that resonates with the audience. And sometimes we have kind of like a preconceived notion of what that could be. And so we put that forward in our marketing and we wonder, why isn't anybody interacting with this? Why isn't anybody engaging with this? And it's really because you might not be using the correct verbiage that resonates with the audience. You might find in your focus groups that you're using, nonprofit marketing, but in all reality, you should just be saying marketing. The nonprofits understand that it's marketing. And you don't really get that idea until you go to a focus group and you get some voice of customer feedback. So sometimes those can be very helpful for this activity. So understanding your customer pain points will also help you define what your unique selling point should be. For example, advocating on behalf of the industry to the government, or, access to exclusive research. What is it that your customer actually needs? And how are you meeting that need? And how are you communicating about it? And that's going to filter into some of the marketing tactics that we're going to talk about later. So right now, I want to take a moment and talk about defining your target audience segments. As somebody who started out as an email marketing coordinator, understanding what's in your database is very important to me, because it's going to drive a lot of the marketing strategies and tactics that we're going to put forward into our marketing plans. And sometimes when you're on the operational side, and you're not necessarily like directly engaged with the strategy development, it can be difficult to get there, because you're trying to make sure that you want to dig into your database. You want to dig into individuals who are director level and above, who have 6 years or plus experience in the organization, but you don't even have those fields in your database. How are you going to do that? So sometimes it's really important to have that conversation with your data analyst or database manager or digital marketing manager to really understand what the size of the prize is, because you might be developing a marketing strategy that's too narrow. Like your customer audience might be 10 people. And while those 10 people might be like high value customers to really focus on for personal outreach, that's not going to fill the 100 seats that you need for your annual meeting or your 1,000 members that you need by the end of the year. And so, I like to start the conversation with, what do we already know? There are, 3 to 4 key audience segments. One is more like psychological, which requires a few more data points. But these 3 here are pretty consistent and easy to get to. So you have your geographic segments, your demographic segments, and your behavioral segments. So when we talk about geographic segments, those are pretty cut and dry. Your city, state, country, global region. Are you in Asia? Do we have a different offering for our members that are in China versus the members that are in Mexico? Things of that nature. And then also demographic segments like your gender, job title, company name, anything that's pretty much populating within the field record. And then you have some of your behavioral segments. This is really going to tie back to a lot of that customer's transaction history. What have they bought? What have they engaged with? What are they most interested in? How are they engaging with us? Are they volunteering? How long have they been a volunteer? Are they a first-year member, or are they a more senior and tenured member? All of these conversation points can help drive your marketing strategy development. And there are so many more. We're just not going to get into all of them today, but we will later. So when thinking about target audience segments, I also like to kind of think about where there's some opportunities. You may not have all of this data at your fingertips, but you might be able to fill in some of the gaps by tapping into your agency of record. Your creative agency or your digital marketing agency might be dealing with bigger clients than you, with million, $3 million marketing budgets, and they're doing things a little bit differently or more provocatively. Tap into them for a point of view. Try to understand, where there might be an opportunity for you to try something different this year, or for them to leverage their experience with their other clients to make a recommendation. And then you also want to keep an eye on where there might be shifts in customer behavior, especially in terms of seasonality. If we know that our clients in Europe go on holiday every year in July and August, you probably shouldn't launch your marketing campaign in July and August for that audience. You're going to have absolutely horrible open rates. all of your KPIs are going to be skewed because you forgot about that customer seasonality. What does the data tell us? That ties back to our previous conversation about voice of customer feedback, market research. I mean, when I say market research, I don't mean that, immediately going to pay for a large market study and things of that nature. There are also some public points of information like the US Census data that can kind of help you understand cultural relevance, as well as some of the demographic data sets that we talked about before. And then there are other talking points such as community volunteer engagement that we kind of dug into before as well. And the last one is, how can we galvanize our network? A lot of organizations have member communities. I know Higher Logic, of course, is a very popular tool for that, but how can I tap into my member community to get them engaged and help them advocate for our organization? Are we launching a new fundraising campaign? Are we launching a new event or a new product offering? Did we launch a leadership series, but we had a pilot, and in that group of 10 individuals in the pilot, we made video testimonials that we're going to use to fully launch the product offering. Being very mindful about where there are small pockets of opportunity and tapping into those pockets. Okay, just going to take a quick break right here. I mentioned earlier that there is a variety of target audience segments ideas. I recently put forward a free list of 64 target audience segment ideas just for this particular masterclass. It's available on my website. I'm going to drop the link after this session, but I want you to know you don't have to scribble and write very fast to try to figure them all out. I've already put together a list of 64 ideas that you can pull forward and incorporate into your marketing strategies coming out of today's session. It seems like a lot of you aren't getting too many questions about member value. I actually previously worked for an organization where it was absolutely unclear what the member value statement was, what the customer value prop was, what the unique selling points were. We had a portfolio of products. We were hosting an annual meeting twice a year, but what does it mean? Are we delivering on our mission? Are we meeting our goals? It was really unclear, and it created a lot of uncertainty and churn, transition churn within the team, because people got so frustrated, they just didn't want to work there anymore. So honestly, understanding your unique selling points and the value that you bring to your industry is so important, not just for your external stakeholders, but also for your internal team. And then it looks like the majority of you say that defining your member value is a difficulty, as well as customer acquisition, which makes sense to me. If you don't understand your brand, you don't understand the value that you're bringing to the market, how can you possibly communicate it to potential members? So thank you very much for sharing where you are. Okay, let's get into the meat of the conversation about creating prospect nurture work streams. I've broken this conversation out into retention, engagement, and customer acquisition to kind of help with the conversation. If you have specific questions about customer acquisition, as you guys mentioned in the poll, please be sure to drop them in the chat. So when I worked for the Produce Marketing Association, we really simplified our prospecting process down to these 6 points. Really working with internal stakeholders to define what the target market were, what the target markets were for business growth, and then narrowing it down to understand what target audiences we were going to engage with our marketing strategy. So step A, or 1, honestly, is about defining the size of the prize, getting that market research in there, engaging with your insights and analytics team or data analyst team to really understand, what's the market, do we fit, and what's our ideal customer profile for this organization in that particular market. The next step You're going to get more engagement from your marketing team, your business liaisons, your member services department or business development, because they're going to be working on, bringing the prospects in, engaging at trade shows or landing pages or marketing campaigns would be found in step B, where you're really just feeding the top funnel. And step C, where it's adding prospects to your marketing automation tool and into your database, because let's be honest, if they're not in your database, where are they? And how do we understand whether or not they're getting enough touch points to move the needle towards becoming a marketing qualified lead? Or like, if they're not in your database, honestly, you should just stop now. They should be in your database. And if you're not getting to that point, please let me know and we'll talk offline. But step D is more about prospect nurturing. So you can define prospect nurturing with as many touches as you need. Some of the staples for prospect nurturing are, a welcome series to introduce them to the organization, drip campaigns to educate them about the value offering. So at step D, it's really important to have a clear understanding of what inventory your organization has available, or what new products are going to launch during the campaign period. Like what's hot, what's sizzling, what can I make available? When I worked for the Produce Marketing Association, for example, one of their key value options were, industry research paper and environmental scans. And that was one of their unique selling points, because in comparison to one of their key competitors, PMA was investing more in market research and had a dedicated, business intelligence team. And so they were investigating fresh fruit and the floral industries and presenting at least 2 to 3 very large white papers a year. And only members had access to these white papers. So we took the large scale white paper, which may be 20 pages long, and narrowed that down to maybe a 3-page abstract, very high level abstract, with, of course, a membership push, and made that available to non-member prospects. So, giving them a sample and then letting them know that they can contact member services if they wanted the full edition. And then step 5 is really something where member services is going to be highly engaged. This is where you're going to transition to your marketing qualified leads, to your sales team, member services, member relations, business development, and they're going to start engaging with personal outreach. One of my favorite tactics is to send plain text automated emails, so that the recipient receives the email and it's personalized, it's coming from someone in BD, but it looks like it's coming through Outlook. So if you didn't really look that closely, you wouldn't realize that I sent you this email through Marketo and that my salesperson probably has nothing to do with it. But I'm keeping the conversation warm. I'm offering you their, online scheduling link. You can click Calendly and go schedule a meeting with that business development person and start getting those bookings together. And then, of course, the last step is really more so for either your insights and analytics team or your marketing department, whichever one is doing metrics, analysis, and reporting, to really understand whether or not this process is working for your organization and where there might be opportunities to improve and optimize it further. This quote really resonated with me because it speaks to the value of relationship building and nurturing prospects. And it says, the way you position yourself at the beginning of a relationship has a profound impact on where you end up. How you treat your prospects will clearly define whether or not they want to engage with your organization. But it's not just for prospects. This could also be applied to new members in your organization, especially those within their first year of membership. First year members are the ones that you have to work the hardest to keep, because I might have purchased this membership on a whim. I might have purchased it on a 1-year trial basis to say, all right, well, let me see if this helps me grow my business. Let me see if it helps me expand my network, whatever personal driver I joined your professional association with in mind. I need to see that value by the time I get to the renewal period. And so it's important that when you're engaging with new members through either member services or other pieces, you pay close attention to where what they communicate are their pain points and what they're looking for in this organization, and somewhat tailor the relationship with that person to ensure that they're aware of the value opportunities that are specifically related to their needs. One organization in our local area that I feel does that really well is the Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce. I mean, you can call them up for an inquiry about membership, and their first step is to schedule a call with one of their member services representatives. They're going to talk to you about the value, of course, give you the spiel, but then they're also going to invite you to an upcoming event. And so that could be, a virtual coffee chat roundtable where it's more of a speed dating networking kind of experience, or it could be an in-person engagement to give you that sample of membership, but also to show you the power of their network. Why am I joining the Professional Chamber of Commerce if not to network with other professionals and grow my business? So that's a really great play for them. All right, so let's talk about feeding that pipeline for customer acquisition. And I know quite a few of you mentioned that customer acquisition is your pain point. So if you have additional questions, drop them in the chat and I'll try to get to them during the Q&A. But areas where you're going to increase awareness and exposure of your organization. So you're going to build brand awareness through public relations, earned media outputs. You're going to build awareness through your organic content on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever other social channels that you're using to tap into your audience, blog articles, or project update pieces on your personal website, keeping people up to date with what's going on with you and where there are opportunities for them to engage. And then in terms of content marketing, you might have a paid digital media marketing strategy where you're buying display banner ads on a media publication's website that's really going to get in front of your niche audience. When I worked for the Drug Information Association, we purchased, all of our display advertising in Q3 for the full next year. And so it was a round of conversations about, where are we looking to go? What markets are we looking to grow in? And which audience segments? Is it pharmacovigilance? Is it clinical trials? Is it drug development and safety? Like, which ones are we focusing on? And which media publications will help us get in front of that audience? And so you could purchase display banner ads on their websites, banner ads in their e-newsletter insertions. You can also do the same with Bulletin Health and get in front of the audience that you want to get in front of, either through channels like Smart Brief, which has a very large impression share, but also making sure that you're getting involved with partners who either are in the contract guaranteeing you a certain amount of impressions or a certain amount of engagement, so that you're making sure that you're getting the return on your investment. And then you'll also leverage things like landing pages. When I worked at DIA, my director of marketing was adamant that she did not want a single paid media piece to go out the door, like an email list rental or anything, that didn't have a cross-sell or an upsell for a free piece of content. And free pieces of content meant a webinar, a podcast, a resource kit, white papers, ebooks, whatever it was behind a form. That's gated content, putting it behind a form. Somebody had to submit and then they could access it. So we created tons of landing pages, not just for like general content like a webinar, but also content related to our events. So every event that we put forward, we would create a resource kit that included, blog articles about that topic, a podcast, a webinar recording, and we'd bundle it and put it behind a form and call it the resource kit that was related to that particular event. So we were using that for acquisition. You might not be ready to register for the event right now, but here, we'll give you a taste of value. And then now that you're in our database, we're going to nurture you along until you eventually purchase the event or become a member. And so her mindset was, I only want to pay for this paid insertion one time, but I want it to provide me however much value. And so it was a great way of bringing in leads and feeding the pipeline for events and membership as well. And then the last talking point, of course, is around growing your database, targeted email list buys or email list rentals. So when I say targeted email list buys, I mean actually buying the email contact records to add them to your database for like a year or whatever the contract agreement is until they have a transactional relationship with you and convert into your customers. Versus an email list rental is where you are engaging with a media publication, for example, and saying, I want to send you the HTML for an email that I designed, and I want you to send this email on my behalf to your database. Those can get a little pricey. A lot of times they range between, let's call it 5,000, and I've seen them go all the way up to 15,000 for a single email. So it really depends on your audience and the media publication that you're engaging with. You can find those kind of rates in things like their media kits or engaging with their advertising or sales team. And then, of course, newsletter signups. If you're driving traffic to your website, to your homepage or whatever, you must have a form on your website. Please, 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 please. If you do not have a form for signing up for your newsletter or staying in touch, and it's not like obnoxiously visible on your homepage, either in the footer or on a contact us page, up in the main navigation bar, or one of those little pop-up things on the left-hand side that scrolls with the person and they can clearly see it say, sign up for our newsletter or whatever. If it's not visible and you're not getting signups, that's why. Don't make it hard for people to find your newsletter sign-up form. That is one of the easiest ways to get people into your database. So we talked a little bit about my former director at DIA, and this is one of the sample landing pages that we created. And this landing page was doing so many things for the organization that even though it's from 2020, we definitely updated it the following year, like refreshed it and relaunched the same landing page. So this landing page was for a downloadable ebook. It was a global ebook, so we tapped into subject matter experts in each of our global regions where DIA has, a physical chapter or membership presence, and had them contribute to this piece. So it was global perspective of the future of pharmacovigilance and risk management. This piece was also a piece of downloadable content related to an annual global conference that they hosted in January. So we launched this piece, we were including it in paid email list rentals, banner ads, driving traffic to the landing page. The landing page, of course, is formatted so that the individual can select their specific country. On the back end, your country segmentation had us assigning you to which global chapter region that you should be getting information from, and then incorporating you into the nurture pipeline for them. So at DIA, we had an office in Switzerland, as well as China, Japan, and then another office in Washington, DC, and one in Horsham. And India, I almost forgot. And so just showing how you can use a piece like this to feed the pipeline for not just your main home office, but other global regions. And then on the post-submission of the form, you were presented with an opportunity to trial DIA's new knowledge content library, which specifically had, a module for pharmacovigilance and drug safety. And then also it cross-promoted our upcoming events, the PV conference that I mentioned in January, but then also the annual meeting in June. And this piece was driving submissions, but then it was also feeding the pipeline for other products in the portfolio. Okay, so let's talk about nurturing your prospects into members. We talked a little bit about drip and nurture campaigns and what that might mean. It's really about, emphasizing the value of your membership, showing them how they might be able to get access to exclusive content like the market research that I mentioned before. Market research can be so expensive. So if you guys are offering market research as one of your value opportunities, you need to be talking that up. I am a little small business shop. I can't afford $10,000 market research or environmental scans and research. But if my annual membership dues are helping the organization do that, or if you are lobbying on my behalf for the issues that matter to me in terms of, international distribution of my products, that's important to me. You need to tell me that you're doing that, the wins and accomplishments that you guys are making on my behalf, and make me feel like I'm being supported. Of course, everybody's offering discounted prices for their members. It's nice, but it's kind of the norm. And then also, if there's any exclusive public visibility or thought leadership opportunities, do you host an annual meeting, but the speakers that you invite to this meeting have to be members of your organization? Or do you offer specific discounted rates for advertising and sponsorships for your offering? When I worked at PMA, they hosted the Fresh Summit annual conference every fall. And one of the ways that they made sure that their exhibitors would renew their membership was they offered a steep discount for member exhibitors. And if you were a member, it also fed into how many points you received to be able to book your location within the venue. And so it was a really nice incentive system to keep the exhibitors engaged and renewing their exhibitor booths. And it was almost priced in a way that you would be stupid not to take out the membership, because after adding in the fees for the booth and all of that stuff, and then looking at the member discount, you really would have saved half of the fees if you just purchased the membership. It was just a no-brainer. And then, of course, nurturing prospects also includes your membership outreach. So this might be creating, I don't want to call it a script, because, people in business development usually have a certain way of sealing the deal. But even if it's high-level talking points, there's also, marketing collateral that could help support your member services team in terms of sell sheets or leave behinds that they could share with a prospect if they're meeting them face to face, to help them, continue thinking about whether or not membership is right for them. But having those little cheat sheet kind of items can definitely make a difference in terms of whether or not your team is successful in sealing the deal. But then as member services continues to engage with prospects, they're going to be able to bring back that voice of customer feedback to you. Why aren't they, what's the reason that they gave that they don't want the membership? Why aren't they engaging? Or, what is the one defining point that really got them to say yes? And how can I incorporate that into my marketing more? If you're telling me that they kept saying yes because they want to be able to get a booth at the main conference, I might increase the amount of ads that I have running with those types of messaging to see if that helps move the needle. So it's really a nice relationship back and forth between member services and marketing. If you guys aren't in the same department within your organization and they're separated out, you really got to find opportunities to make it collaborative, but also to make sure that, you're scratching each other's backs. Don't want to get into that area where marketing and sales are pointing fingers at each other. Okay, right now, I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to play this video, and I hope it works. This is a video.
I was right out of college looking for a job in 3 distinct opportunities.
This is a video from my time at Produce Marketing Association. It was part of our campaign.
I was right out of college looking for a job and 3 distinct opportunities presented themselves. But I was fascinated by the notion of marketing flowers. I had seen bouquets before. When I saw thousands of them being put together, and each one destined to a different person, each a unique story, I was hooked. I'm Carlos Rama, CEO and co-founder of the GEMS Group. Whether it's a gift of gratitude or affection, our products help people express the way they feel, and we think that's pretty remarkable. I think any entrepreneur would agree that there is a great amount of risk involved in doing something different and new. It's very difficult to meet people in an industry that's so evolved. The opportunity to get to know them on a casual and friendly basis really opens the doors to do business that otherwise might not be available to everyone. PMA has been a big part of that, helping us make the connections we needed to make with suppliers and customers, even finding the right industry talent to join our team. These coming together opportunities help us facilitate business, because I think all business ultimately is personal. So when you get to sit face to face with members of the industry and talk about the growth opportunities that are out there, stuff gets done. We have an entire generation of new shoppers ahead of us, the millennials. The more that we really invest in them, the better opportunities lie ahead. The research that's available to us today has never been available in the past. We have to learn more about the market that's emerging, and PMA is investing the money and time to get us that information. Since joining the Produce Marketing Association, our business has tripled. I, for one, am very much looking forward to working with PMA for many more years to come, knowing that the industry will be stronger, will be better, will be healthier, and much more successful because of it.
Okay, so quick check on this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Just use your reactions in Zoom to let me know. But I wanted to highlight this video for a few reasons. I worked on this video when I was a marketing strategy manager at PMA, and honest to God, it's my favorite one because I felt after he finished speaking, like I just wanted to take out my credit card and buy it. Like whatever he was selling, I'll buy it. You wouldn't know it, but he was not as scripted as you think. He was one of our board members and a very prominent figure in the floral industry. So we tapped into him to kind of speak about what value he was getting out of his membership from a business perspective, but also to kind of help us set expectations for where we were looking to grow in the floral industry. He was part of a series of members that we tapped into for specific video testimonials like this. We took this long form video and then we cut it down to like a 10-second, 30-second snippet that we could also use on social media for paid advertising and to driving traffic to a website. We created a form on the website that not only included his story, but also included some assets that were specific to the floral industry. And then for print advertisements, we took a photo shoot while we were in his office. You saw there were some things at the warehouse as well, and we were using that in print and display advertisements as well. So it was a nice surround sound kind of campaign in that regard, but it was also pull through for not just acquisition, but also retention. You know, we wanted to show our floral members a few key things. Like there was a certain point in the video where he opens up at a meeting and they have this booklet open on the table and he was pointing at it and showing his teammates and talking about it. That was one of the floral industry market research reports. And so they put forward one of those big ones, I think twice a year, one about like color theory, color predictions with Pantone, and another where it was talking about like floral retail predictions for the year and how things were going to change in terms of their potential relationships with retailers like Walmart and things of that nature. So we really kind of wanted to queue up a few conversations about what value he's experiencing, not just in sales, but what value that he's experiencing in terms of market strategy development for his business. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. B2C, direct mail is probably very impactful still for most nonprofits that are seeking, you know, donations, you know, just direct donations and not so much activity and engagement. All right, so I see about half the participants have responded to the poll. I'm going to give you guys a few more seconds to get your responses in there. Right now, email is knocking it out of the park, which I don't know why in the last few years there were all these articles that were, you know, promoting this idea that email is dead. I absolutely disagree. Email continues to be one of the main drivers, not only for, you know, increasing awareness and creating engagement touch points with your customers, but conversions. Like I honestly haven't seen it lapse at all. So I'm very surprised when people say it's dead. And then in terms of what's working right now, a lot of you are saying that email continues to deliver for you, but I'm also seeing some hints around your organization's website. And that makes sense to me. I've had some conversations with other nonprofits that, you know, took the time during the pandemic when they weren't as busy doing, you know, their full, you know, slate of programming and face-to-face events to reinvest time and effort into relaunching their website. Everybody always wants to relaunch their website, but it's a time-consuming thing. So I'm happy to see that a lot of you are saying that your website plays a strong role. And then I'm surprised to see that quite a few of you aren't really tapping into paid digital media or broad display or defining that as one of your key converters. I've always been a really strong proponent of, you know, creating awareness with broad display tactics or Google ads in terms of driving traffic to your website or remarketing advertising to keep individuals who came to your website engaged. So that's actually pretty surprising. So let's take a look at some of the marketing tactics that you might leverage in your marketing strategy. And I just want to call out really quickly, the bulleted items that are in bold are actually the responses from the New Jersey Nonprofit Center members from December 2021. And so I presented that same poll at the last session, and they communicated that email marketing, owned social, paid social media, and direct marketing are the 4 tactics that are still working for them during the pandemic. So while there are a myriad of opportunities in terms of what you can include in your tactical channel mix, I just wanted to call those tactics out. It's because some of your peers are saying that they're working for them right now. And there might be an opportunity for you to tap into them in your marketing strategy planning. Okay, so let's get to the final end of the road. We're trying to make sure that you understand that we love you, you love us, and you should keep renewing, right? So a lot of organizations, the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to, what is our year-round value? It's your annual meeting or, the industry conferences, continuing education portfolio or training courses, interactive workshops or webinars like this, or the advertising and exhibiting options that we talked about before. And when you come to the tail end of the relationship and you start engaging people with your retention campaign, and that's usually something that a lot of organizations start, 2 months even before you're set to, expire. You might get that email alert that says your membership is going to expire in 2 months. Here's what you've done, or here's the value that we've brought to you. And so you're itemizing, if it's a B2B relationship, you have 100 employees and 40 of them took advantage of these education offerings with our organization because we kept track, we kept a tally and we worked that up into your engagement score as an organization. Or, you saved X amount of dollars through your membership by, registering for these activities, and this is your total cost savings. And you kind of itemize it out there to let them see like the impact what the organization is making. But then you also want to remind them of some of those like intangible things, like, we offered you the opportunity to network with influential individuals because you came to our annual meeting and we had a members only reception to put, key buyers in the room, and you were on the invitation only list. So you were able to close a deal and establish a new buyer relationship. That's the value of the membership. And then, of course, there's the knowledge sharing. We talked about case studies, white papers, ebooks, but then also the opportunity to share industry best practices or explore new industry trends. That kind of ties back to the educational content or sessions that you might host at your annual meeting, the caliber of the speakers that you bring in. I mean, I would never expect to have ever met Spike Lee if not for the fact that my university organized a speaking engagement and he was the keynote, and they offered students the opportunity to design the poster for the session, and the person who won the poster contest got to meet Spike Lee, right? So there's opportunities to create those touch points and excitement for your organization. You just kind of have to be creative about it. And so this is an example that I wanted to share about cultural relevance and creating personalized content for your members to show value. So we talked a little bit about how PMA was one of their main value points was the content that they made available to their members. And so on the left is an example of a white paper that was produced for our food service audience. Now, at PMA, one of our challenges was retention with our Spanish speaking audience in Mexico. Like we had a really great acquisition strategy. They would engage with the events, but it was like a leaky bucket. We were having so many challenges retaining them for year-over-year membership. And so what we found was that people really wanted more access to content. And we found this through we had an annual brand health tracker market research survey that we sent out to our members and non-member database. And then one of the main questions was around, what value is PMA bringing to the industry? You tell us. And so what we noticed in the slice for our Mexican audience was they really had a desire for access to more information that could help them make business decisions. And so as part of the 2018-2019 membership strategy, we revamped the Spanish-speaking side of our website, which admittedly was a bit dismal. And we made a concerted effort to bring on a marketing agency in Mexico that could help us design, translate, and launch a membership strategy in country that really resonated more with the Mexican audience. So here on the right is that same white paper, but transitioned into a piece for this particular audience. What we found in the research was that, the Mexican audience liked vibrant colors. They wanted to see more of the produce that resonated with them because they were grower and shippers. So we were using stock imagery of only produce that was available in Mexico even. So, strawberries and the lemons and the limes that you see there on the right, because we wanted it to speak to them and for them to see themselves as they were engaging with all of our content in the portfolio. All right, so here's the last slide, and I really want to kind of open this up for Q&A, but also I want to ask the question, what's working for you in terms of membership retention? So the picture on this slide is a plate that we developed as part of that membership marketing strategy for Mexico. We were going to tap into an artist in Mexico who would do the handcrafted plates, and she would also paint into the plate specific fruits and vegetables that were key to the Mexican audience. And we were going to make the plate a milestone gift, first year, 5 year, 10 years, so on and so forth, so that our Mexican members could have and cultivate this idea around bragging rights. Like, I have on my mantle in my office 5 of these plates. I've been engaged with PMA for X number of years, and have that sense of pride and ownership about where they were with the organization and how they were engaging with the organization. So I am going to open up the floor now for Q&A, and also any stories that you might want to share.
We had a lot of questions regarding strategies for organizations that don't have large marketing budgets or marketing teams, basically balling on a budget.
Yes. Okay. So I've worked in teams where, for example, I was the only person who was doing digital marketing. We were like a 4-man squad. We had a senior marketing manager, a copywriter, and a graphic designer, and myself doing all the marketing outputs. And so when you're balling on a budget, I'm not sure how that ranges, but you might want to tap into some of your own audiences. For example, the membership committee that I mentioned before, like who in your advisory board or group can help with kind of making those introductions and kind of helping your membership team move the needle in that regard. I would say the lowest marketing budget that I worked with like a $30 million value portfolio, they probably assigned about $1 million of their budget to the full year of marketing activities. And that we thought was pretty ambitious because we had 64 global events and training courses in that portfolio that needed to get promoted with that $1 million. And each individual product had its own registration targets and membership goals. And so that $1 million stretched. But for us, it was very important to have those media buying conversations in Q3, because a lot of times the media publications were dropping their new media kits in Q4 for the new year, and pricing was going up. So one way that we were being strategic about how we were leveraging our budget was we needed to have all of our media buying conversations with whatever vendor you were doing it with, and we needed to have all of those IOs locked in by like September, October, so we could get the discount of the current year and the renewal rate without it going into the next year's pricing.
And you showed that.
Oh, go ahead.
You showed that video. Do you have any ideas for someone who needs to produce like a similar testimonial video, but again, is working with a very limited budget?
Mm-hmm. So if you're working with a really limited budget, you really want to be very strategic about the storyboard for the video. So one way that we were able to cut some costs in that regard with like our agency, because we had a really nice agency, but they were also really expensive. So internally, we did a lot more work in terms of vetting the member who was going to be speaking. We offered them a questionnaire of sorts to kind of see what kind of responses they were going to queue up. And then we kind of helped guide them and say, all right, well, this is probably the best area where you can speak. We want you to speak to the entire questionnaire so that we could get as much value out of this interaction as possible. But using the video recording session as best as possible, because we had to fly down, the videographer, we had to schedule time, hotel, travel, all of that. So being very strategic about your resources and how you're setting up the storyboard in advance can absolutely help you cut costs in that regard.
So Craig asked a question. He said, I'm curious about email though. What's its impact? My open rates have been fairly consistent, but I fear it's not sticking in people's minds because there are too many other emails vying for attention.
So email can be impactful, but if you're telling me that your open rate is kind of like dismal, my recommendation would be to do some tests. And some of my favorite email marketing tests are based off of your friendly from. So you can try sending it under the organization's name, but you could also try sending it under a person's name. And so we would do, with our advisory board and committee members, we would use their names as the friendly froms and send it like a plain text email as a personal invitation for them to come to an event or to engage. And or like the buyer was offering them a special discount. And that honestly would help drive up open rates. You can also test subject lines. I actually sat in on a webinar the other day from the National Advertisers Association, where there was a strong conversation about incorporating emojis into your subject line and testing whether or not that helps drive engagement. And some subject lines were pure emoji driven, while others kind of just leverage one or two. Another area that you can test for your emails are send time. So if you are operating a global organization, try using send time optimization based off of that person's geographic region and allow it to send it to them at a certain time. I like sending emails at like 6 o'clock in the morning if it's like a promotional email. And that's really because I like to watch throughout the day to see how people are engaging with it and kind of test to see like when people start opening that email in their inbox, especially like in the US. So if me as a marketer, I wake up at like 6:45 and the first thing I do is I grab my cell phone and I see what notifications are there. Get ahead of your competition, send it earlier. Other things that you can test that not for the open rate, but other things that you can test are, whether or not you have certain images in the email, like in your hero. So you can run a test to see if people respond to different colors in the hero or different verbiage in the hero, a different call to action. You can also test the call to action verbiage in your buttons, or even the button color. Sometimes, you just got to drop a red button in there or an orange button and see if it makes a difference. So one thing I would do is if I was sending an email internally to my database, but I was also sending it externally through a list buy, I would change the colors in the call to action buttons to be like the best call to action buttons for the media buy. And I would use that as a test. I see somebody raised their hand.
Would you like to unmute and ask a question? Is it too much to put in the chat? That's fine. We have 2 hands raised.
I'll go first. Hi, thank you for all this abundance of information, but I feel that some of the tools that you're suggesting are way too sophisticated for many of us here on the audience. And, such as all these color tests and everything like that. These are groups that don't really have that kind of capacity overall. But I do want to share something that my group did that I actually had put out to them based on something that the Center for Nonprofits was doing with its conferences. And that's where the Center for Nonprofit had created an affinity program to invite organizations to spread the word about their conferences. So and the group that I'm working with is a women's philanthropy circle. That is, of course, membership based. Each woman contributes $1,000 that goes towards our grant making and another $100 that goes for administration. So what we did this year, based on that low idea, and what really pleased me about it is that just putting the idea out, somebody picked it up and developed it to a much richer concept
Nice.
that really benefited us. And that was to create an ambassadors program so that the women who recruited other people to come in got an immediate email response if that person, when they registered, mentioned the ambassador's name. And they also were placed into a drawing so that at the end of the session, there were 5 gift cards awarded that were to Williams-Sonoma and its affiliated shops. Each was $25. And the next stage that I'm going to suggest to them based on what I heard here today is that we go back to our ambassadors and ask them to send out a personal invite to every person they recruited to attend our upcoming sessions or in-person meet and greets. So thanks for sparking that.
Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else want to share an experience? I see we're coming up on time and we're going to have to end soon.
So this is Jay. Hi, I'm Jay Wiseman, Legacy Philanthropy Group. So I would just like to kind of respond to the last comment, which is, a lot of organizations have, varying sizes and different capacity to do these things, right? To kind of, implement these strategies. But I think we all have the ability to assess our capacity and come up with a plan and prioritize these different marketing and acquisition and retention strategies. So I think that there's no organization that's too large or too small to have a plan and then prioritize these things and execute. Clearly, probably none of us can execute all of the things that Yasheaka shared, and it was unbelievably helpful. Thank you, Yasheaka. I just think that there's an approach and strategy where we can start applying these concepts, no matter how big or small we are, and try a couple of things and again see what works and what else we can try after.
And like I said, there are a variety of marketing tactics that you can include in your marketing plan. It really depends on your budget and what works best for your audience. I mean, if your audience prefers to consume organic content that's published in a certain media publication, go that route. Really take the time and effort to have a conversation with people within your volunteer group and ask them their opinion. Like, hey, where do you get your news? Do you check it out on Twitter, or do you subscribe to Smart Brief, or like, how are you consuming content? Because they're the ones who are highly engaged with your organization, but they're more often to tell you.
I'll throw one more idea out there which is affiliating and creating partnerships with associated membership organizations that are similar. So I work with a group of advisors in philanthropy, folks, financial advisors, state attorneys, all who advise their clients, on their philanthropic planning. We partnered with another organization that's a nonprofit gift planner. So I think probably many of the folks on the call here today have legacy gift planners, et cetera, that work with their donors, and we partnered with them for a conference. We did a full day's conference in conjunction, and so each of us were exposed to the other's members, and building our circle of influence. So that was a really effective strategy. I see Craig on the phone and Debbie, right? And so here's a great example, right, of two organizations that collaborate with stakeholder groups that are obviously quite closely tied together and to the mutual benefit of both organizations.
Thank you very much for sharing. Now, I'm getting a note that I think we're wrapping up now. If you have additional questions, I see somebody asked for the YouTube link. Happy to share that as well. But if you have any additional questions, please drop them in the chat and I'll try to answer them there. Danielle, Debbie?
Yeah, let me jump in very quickly. First of all, I want to thank everybody for your input. We will be sending a copy of the slides to everybody and the recording. You'll be getting a link to the recording. And we're grateful to Yasheaka for making that available. I'm also going to just quickly say there will be a short evaluation survey when you sign off of this, so we appreciate your giving us some feedback. But also I wanted to kind of follow up a little bit on what Margine was saying too, both in terms of, you know, what Jay said, the collaboration with organizations like the Council of New Jersey Grant Makers, but what she was referring to was our promotional partner program that we have for our conference, and organizations that meet a certain minimum of promotion of just sending out emails and social media and that kind of thing, get a 25% discount on registration for the conference, and they get listed on our website too as a partner. So they're, you know, again, thinking about what people would value and how to strengthen these connections. You know, they can reach so many more people than we can. It makes a tremendous difference, and it's not a whole lot of, you know, doesn't take a lot of time and effort. Anyway, I'd like to thank all of you for being here, and we can continue to share information. I'll be sending a follow-up, but certainly keep in touch with us at the center and with Yasheaka. Again, you'll be getting her contact information. And the video has been, the link to the video that she showed has been shown. I also, Yasheaka has posted the website to download the 64 target audience segment ideas. That will also be in the follow-up, and it's on her website, and it's free, or you can make a payment if you feel so moved. But obviously, being on this webinar, we want you to have it. Let's see. So I said, I just want to thank the staff, Danielle and Kathy Hahn, who have been here in the background helping out, and all of you for your engagement. Please let us know what we can do better, what are some needs that you have. I'm going to get back to you, Jay, with some of your ideas about, you know, low cost options. So this is how, as a community, this is how we help each other. All right, let me just share my screen very briefly. I want to show you the, where is it? There we go. I'm just going to show you some of our current upcoming events here. On the April 26th at 6 is the Achieving Safe and Healthy Homes for All. This is the third in the series from Imagine More. This is a consortium of a whole lot of people looking at racial justice. If for those of you who are members, which many of you are, we have our Member Monday gatherings every other Monday. It's not this coming Monday, but the Monday after. And we have, sometimes we'll have a topic, but often it's just talking about what our concerns are and what people are looking for. Please note that on April 26th in the morning is a hybrid event for South Jersey, organizations in Southern New Jersey. This is to bring people together and talk about how to make the environment stronger and better, more receptive and supportive of the nonprofit community. So it's going to be, it's an exciting event. And again, it's both remote and in person at Rowan University in Glasgow. The center is offering the State of New Jersey nonprofit community. This is the results of our annual survey. We've done this for over 20 years, and we will be doing a live report free on Tuesday, May 3rd at 11 o'clock. And then we're doing a workshop on cybersecurity. It's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Cybersecurity. We'll be looking at how to keep up with the latest threats, and we'll take a look at what cyber security insurance can do, and what are the ways that you can avoid being a victim of cybercrime. Finally, again, make sure you have you're on our email list and you are following us on social media. As we also have a blog. If you have contributions to make to the blog, we do welcome submissions, and feel free to contact us at any time. We are working remotely to a great extent. So if you call the phone number, leave a message in the general mailbox, or if you can also contact us at our own extensions, and we get notified of that. And Kathy monitors it very closely too. So we respond fairly promptly. So thank you all for coming, and I appreciate your time, and I hope this was useful. Yasheaka, thank you very much for, as usual, a high quality and intense presentation. So take care, everybody, and we will see you before too long, I trust.